Yeah, welcome to this month's EVerest monthly technical steering committee meeting. I'll just begin with a few highlights of the month. Some people from Pionics have attended the EVS 38 in Gothenburg, and we noticed there that a lot of people are talking about EVerest, and not just talking about it, but actually implementing chargers with it, which is a very nice thing to hear. Then we have also participated as Pionics in the Charin Festival in France and had some very successful testing sessions there, but I think more on that will come later. There's been a contribution from Analog Devices in the last couple of weeks, contributing a board support driver for their EV charging board, which makes it quite a lot of hardware now being supported on the open source side as well. And there have been several feature merges and more on that in the coming slide, but some of the highlights are we have ISO 15118-20 pause and resume merged and some dynamic device model initialization for OCPP 201 and 2.1. Now I'll show this antitrust policy for everyone in the call, but I think everyone in the call is already familiar with this. So we can jump directly in. Known EVerest-based chargers. I think this slide hasn't changed since the last time, but yeah, like I already mentioned on the EVS in Gothenburg, there were already quite a few people talking about EVerest-based chargers, so I assume that this list will continue to grow in the not too distant future. The EVSE controllers and dev kits we're aware of. Like I already mentioned, the Analog Devices development kit has now a driver and a link on the slide, so you can check it out, as well as all the other development kits that are out there. So, event recap. Always great when you haven't been to the event, but I'm told by the slide and by the people like Marco who have been there that it was a good event with some great conversations across all kind of industry, but surprisingly very Europe focused this time, which has been different in the past, I'm told. So maybe this is just this year then. Got great feedback from all kinds of chargeport operators that have chargers already in the field with EVerest, which is always nice to hear. And we made a nice poster that you can download with all kinds of information about regulations and charging standards. Then a bit more in depth about the Charin Festival in France. We tested ISO 15118-20 DC with the micromegawatt charger, including dynamic and scheduled mode with TLS 1.3, which apparently was quite successful with the partners we could test this with. And in general, the tests went pretty smooth, even with plug and charge. And apparently, one of the learnings is that mostly the vehicle side has to push the implementation, but I think there's more and more vehicles coming in the coming years, especially since this is getting more and more required, I would say, in the not too distant future in chargers. So I think that's quite interesting. Then for the updates to the EV charging SIG of the LF Energy, there have actually already been 2 calls since the last TSC. The one at the end of May has discussed basically if this EV charging SIG that at the moment, as far as I know, contains Citrino S and EVerest should be extended with other projects. And there's been a discussion if the Open Leader project, an Open ADR implementation, should or could join this EV charging SIG. And in the last meeting, the TAC said that they basically like the idea of growing the charging SIG and will talk to potential other projects. So this seems to be on track at the moment. Then EVerest framework updates. There's actually been quite a lot of work going on about an alternative boot mode to just the YAML config in the last couple of weeks. So basically, you can now specify from which type of configuration you want to boot. If you want to boot just from the regular YAML, which is the default and will be supported for probably many months and many years to come. But there's also an alternative one where you can basically initialize a database from this configuration and then also continue booting from that database, which will allow us to store a lot more metadata of certain configuration keys, and also lays the groundwork to have more flexible runtime configuration in the future. The pull request that actually integrates booting EVerest from a database still in review today, but is definitely going to end up in the next or in the upcoming release. And yeah, there's also a PR still open with various Cling Tidy recommendations. I've been looking at the configuration we have there and subsequently extending it a little bit to have more checks enabled and fix them as they go. For the grid integration and energy management working group, development update here. I think there was one PR merge that is relevant to this. Is removing this inform max limits when a power supply updates its capabilities. I think that was a bug that could basically re-trigger or reset some limits while it's in operation. But that I think has been fixed. Then what's still being work in progress is the EVerest integration, and yeah, in general, the whole chain implementation of the bidirectional charging functionality. So from OCPP to the energy manager to ISO 15118, lots of integrations from OCPP 2.1, for example, also being worked on there. So yeah, there's more things to come in the near future, I think. So I'll also give an update on the cloud communication working group. Put on many hats today. So there's been a refactor to compensate schedule calculation for 1.6. Yeah, this authorized response waits for a set user price. I think this is related to the pricing and tariff extension of 1.6. Yeah, allowing or updating the allowed energy transfer modes can be now set via a callback. Device model initialization, I already teased that in the first slide. This is now basically dynamically initialized. Before that, you kind of had to set your configuration, like JSON configuration files, to basically match the setup of the amount of EVSEs and connectors you had. And with this change, you kind of have to remove these JSON configurations if you have them for the EVSEs, but they will be dynamically initialized based on the EVerest config. I think this is can be quite useful for making this a little bit more flexible, especially for testing, and yeah, less duplicate configuration is always good to prevent mistakes. Then some of the work in progress, some preparations to allow runtime configuration. I think we changed the return type in the device model to basically communicate back the need for things like when a reboot of EVerest is required to set certain configuration keys. there's been work ongoing for the OCPP 2.1 end-to-end testing. We do this via Python, so we use the Mobility House OCPP Python library for the messages here, and Martin has been working on getting those message definitions upstream, and based on what's already been merged now in upstream, we can now continue to add this end-to-end testing on the EVerest side as well. There will also be more things added to this dynamic initialized device model, things like the connected EV data that you can report via OCPP 2.x. And yeah, work going on the smart charging blocks in OCPP 2.1, the Q01, Q02. Yeah. Then car communication. I think now I can give it over to Moritz.
Yes, I'll try to say a few words about the progress in the high-level communication part. Yes, slide taking some time to update. So the pause and resume feature for ISO 15118-20 has now been merged. You'll see this in the EVerest core and the libiso updates here. The value-added service interface for ISO 15118 was also added to be able to communicate these services correctly. Subscribing to certificate updates, this means that now when the certificates get updated by the backend, usually, that we can actually reconfigure the TLS server at runtime without having to restart the stack, something which is really important for the way stuff works with dynamic certificates. The changed certificate verification and open SSL tools make sure that the MO and V2G trust anchors are always used, and that we can respond to the vehicle with a different response code. Instead of no certificate available, it will be a failed certificate not allowed at this EVSE, the more correct return value. So that was also an important update. Also, obviously, related to all the certificate handling, and some refactoring in the plug and charge for the authorization. And in the libiso, already mentioned the pause and resume. The MCS has also been mentioned months ago. Those have now been merged, those services which were defined in the new amendment to the ISO 15118-20. And also a new feature is dynamic update of the energy modes, which I think was just mentioned in the OCPP section. The work in progress, still ongoing all the time, the last months, the EV side implementation, constantly some pull requests popping up there and getting merged with the message implementations and so on. Then there are some draft pull requests for both the library and the core for ISO 15118-20 AC. And we at ChargeByte have been testing that the last few days. We pulled in those branches and build our software based on those. And there's still a pull request or another pull request in progress to departure time handling. Some changes with some inconsistencies before. That's in the, I think it's in the -2 in the EVS EV2G handling. And as already mentioned last month, an open source library for GBT is available, and we are looking for help on integration into EVerest. So if someone wants to step forward for that, you're welcome. And we'll move on to the other related stuff, which is on the next slide, the car communications MCS, the megawatt charging. Just little progress there. What has been done recently is in the implementation, possibly going away from too many changes in the EVSE manager, because the functionality is quite of MCS is quite related to the low-level handling of what is done in the non-MCS related to what is CP and PP. We're trying to map that more to similar features instead of adding new signals which have almost the same meaning, and probably the changes will then be in the BSP, which is the board support the hardware adaptation layer, which is then related to the board, which the manufacturer will have to implement. There will probably be an instruction set on how to map things, but that will make sure that the EVSE manager doesn't need to be touched much and can be used in MCS and a standard IEC or ISO mode when all the other components are together. And final mention for the amendment, the services and the parameter sets. We mentioned those pull requests last month. Those were merged quite a few weeks ago. So not much progress actually, which can be seen, but hardware, ChargePart hardware is arriving soon, and with the rework on the BSP, we will see whether that works as expected. And that will go back into the working group then.
All right, nice to hear. Thanks a lot for the update. Now a quick update on the vulnerability management team. I hear there's nothing to report other than the security audit that we mentioned a couple of months ago has now had its official kickoff. There's been a timeline for the audit agreed upon, which basically means that the next, I think, 1.5 months, a team will look at certain parts of EVerest, first develop a threat model basically, and then look at the code and hopefully find lots of things that we can improve on. And so I assume next month and the month after that, there will be a little bit more to report from the VMT than the last couple of months. So now we come to the monthly release notes. This month again is a just regular source code snapshot release, and next month will be what we now call this consolidated release with a feature freeze window, which will be announced in due course. So it is able to probably get released sometime end of July, early August. But for this month's PR, for this month's release notes, this is a selection of the PRs that are merged in the upcoming release, with a lot more things actually probably coming in, like the configuration changes that allow us to boot from database. But some of the things are in Slack. We now use these AC style retries also for DC. There's now a configurable session ID type. So that's basically the length of the session ID in the EVSE manager that you configure. Then, as we already mentioned, the interface for supporting these value-added services has been added. So the certificate update information getting published. We have refactored the run application abstraction we used in the setup module in a new library in the staging part of EVerest core. So you can basically that this is used in some modules that call external applications and was directly, I think, based on Boost Process in the past, and is now still based on Boost Process, but has a bit of a more unified wrapper around it. Then we have the dynamic initialization of the EVC and connector device model components I already mentioned. The LEM driver now has support for the connection timeout, time zones, and daylight saving time in the NTP service, as well as the ability to cache some of the OCMF data. As Moritz already mentioned, the TLS service spend method has been added. The payment module has now the ability to run end of day jobs, and the analog devices development kit driver has been integrated, and we changed the way that EVerest CMake is discovered to basically always prefer a local EVerest CMake version over one that is installed in the system. which can be quite useful if you basically run a CI job and want to directly override it, for example, or if you have it installed on your system. But yeah, as always, it's going to be done when it's done. So probably sometime next week, I think, or the week after, and then we will focus on the July release. So then, what's next? I'll really briefly go over the roadmap, since I don't think they have actually changed since last time. So we are at the very edge of Q2. So I expect some of the things that we have listed for Q2 will probably then shift to Q3 in the OCPP roadmap and all the other roadmaps as well. But here's a bit of an overview. I'm not going to go into all details, since I would be reading roadmap slides all day. But this is the current OCPP roadmap. You see we're basically working on 2.1 features like smart charging and BPT support, as well as deeper device model integration, and then on many more things in upcoming months. The ISO-20 roadmap, I don't know, Moritz, do you have anything to add to this?
I don't have any new insights if it's the same as last time. Sorry.
Okay, then I think this is probably actually how it was stated earlier. So we have more work going on in the data sharing between OCPP and the ISO modules. The EVSE manager refactoring that was just mentioned is still work in progress. -20 AC is already in draft pull request or in review, and then yeah, more and more things coming in the next few months. Then energy management. I assume the EVerest Go integration will also slip into Q3. I mean, the pull requests are open; they're being actively worked on and reviewed. So it's only a matter of weeks, I think, until this is merged. Same probably with the OpenADR integration, and yeah, more things to come, I guess. Then upcoming events. So the actually the next upcoming events will probably be the Y Camp in north of Amsterdam in the beginning of August, where at least a few people from Pionics will be there. It's a nice event if you still have some time in early August and don't really know what to do. I think there's still tickets available, and we can probably squeeze another person or so into our space there. Then FrostCon is a free and open source software conference near Bonn in Germany. We plan on going there as EVerest, and have applied for a project table there. I hope there would be an update if we are expected, but I think this is also going to slip until July. So I guess in the next TSC you will know if we were actually going. Then early September, as always, the ICNC upcoming, and just a week later, the LF Energy Summit, where probably Robert or Marco from Pionics will join, and the next Charn Festival in Jacksonville, Florida, in the US. I don't know if anyone from us will attend. I don't know, Abby, does anyone from you attend? If not, I mean, it's in November, so still a couple months to decide if someone wants to go there or not. All right, then, yeah, that's basically it. The next TSC will be on the 24th of July at the same time as today. And we have all kinds of interesting working groups that you can join, or if you're watching this for the first time and are interested, you can also join the EVerest welcome call that is typically Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Central European summertime, and also once a month at 5 p.m. In the afternoon. But that was already this week, so it will only be in another week, in another month from now. So yeah, thank you for listening and following along, and now we can go into the discussion if we have anything to discuss.